It's honestly redundant.
Watching Broncos football, just lashing yourself on the back.
I read a stat that if the Broncos merely scored 18 points a game, they'd be 8-1.
That's impossible.
That's crazy.
They've got the best statistical defense in the league, don't they?
Yeah, they have an unreal defense.
It's like Iowa football, really.
Mm-hmm.
I picked Denver to win that game, and like for 2/3 of the game, I'm like, all right, good pick. Damn. And then Denver happened.
It'd be like that sometimes, Greg.
That's
gambling. And then you realize that you took Nathaniel Hackett against Mike Vrabel.
I know.
And you kicked yourself the remainder of the weekend.
Yep.
Iowa football with Russell Wilson.
He probably wouldn't even start there. He's so bad. I guess you got to give him a season. I think the truth about Russell Wilson is somewhere between what we've seen this year and what we saw last year, which was him taking a gradual slide. But many teams would say I can do something with that. This head coach is such a buffoon that I think plus his contract also dictates that you actually have to run it back. But I think you just throw this season out. Hackett's got to be one and done. He's terrible.
I agree. He's a Cam Cameron of his generation.
You think, though, that there is some evolution of Russell Wilson that goes back to looking like exciting Russell Wilson?
I don't know.
Look, Stugotz has made me think, has he played himself out of the Hall of Fame? And I think it might be the case, but I do think that there are things that you can do to make things simpler on him. Last year, I thought they had such a smartly designed run game. I know everyone made fun of watching them and their style, but I thought that their running game was so creative, and it kept them in a lot of games that they didn't have the talent to actually be in. This is so unimaginative. And I don't know if it's just Russ going off script because Geno's play is a pretty big indictment on Russell Wilson. But I gotta think there's stuff there to work with an offensive mind that's worth its weight.
Dan, the last 3 seasons before he went to Denver, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. 25-6. Like, he can't be this bad, right? It didn't happen that quickly.
Well, when Mike says they've got to simplify the offense, how much simpler do you want it to look than what we're watching? Because every time he drops back to pass, I feel he's just going to try and throw it into one of the flats.
I'm not necessarily saying simplify it. I'm saying make it easier. Have players operate in space, and it can't just be dump-offs asking your offensive line, who've proven to be incapable, to get out in front and block. I know that they've had some injury problems with Williams, and Judy's been inconsistent with when he's on the field, but they've got weapons. I know what works typically in Russell Wilson's career. Roll him the F out of the pocket, and if it means Russ letting Russ cook and it being like a mediocre meal, go for that. Because what I've seen this year is just confounding. It can't just be him that's deciding to go underneath on every 3rd and long, right? It can't possibly just be that, can
it? Kudos to Seattle for seeing this coming. Mina Kimes, whose word is gospel with me on NFL matters, and especially Seattle, she knows the team. She says that for the past couple of years, there were indications that his arm strength wasn't what it was and that his mobility wasn't what it was. So that combination, I think Seattle foresaw this in a way.
Stugotz, let me ask you this question. As you say, it can't happen that fast. And we've seen...
Maybe it can. I was just asking.
No, I think you're right to question whether it can happen that fast. However, because he's the advent of the mobile quarterback, because if he loses some of the electricity in his mid-30s of being able to avoid everybody, because with Aaron Rodgers, we saw it happen that fast in his late 30s, MVP, back-to-back years, and now we're watching and we're like, what is this? How can it look like that? Let me ask you the precedent anywhere across the history of football that you can remember a quarterback with those kinds of numbers in his early 30s going to another team and it being this kind of disaster 8 games in, where you're watching and you're totally confused about how did all the Russell Wilson magic evaporate from one day to the next, one coach to the next, one system to the next, because even Peyton Manning changed teams late in his career and was able to summon for a while an MVP type of performance, and he was in his late 30s.
No, Peyton had one of maybe his best season, his first season with the Broncos, I believe. He had an amazing season. I'm trying to answer your question. I'm trying to
There's
think
plenty
of
of
a guy.
examples, and it doesn't
Like
necessarily
this,
happen.
Mike?
Yeah, where there's just like a huge decline. It's been with Cam Newton. It happened with Matt Ryan this year. I can go through it, but it
No, but I'm
happens.
doing early
But Russ
30s.
is more in his prime.
Cam's
I
a good
feel
one,
like.
though. Cam is a good
Cam's
one.
in
Cam's
his
an
early
excellent
30s.
one. Yeah.
And I ask you about the physical style of play. If it runs down running backs, why wouldn't it also run down quarterbacks?
But this is usually the age, historically, outside of Brady and Breeze, where you see a decline. And Brady kind of spoiled us into thinking, no, yeah, Aaron Rodgers will play till he's 40. Drew Brees played till he's
but
40.
Mike, you're making
That's the
Russell
outlier.
older than he is, though. He's not Aaron Rodgers' age. He's not.
If you look historically, when you'd be shocked at the ages that greats retired at, where they showed signs. The quarterbacks that we watched growing up, Marinos, Montanas, Youngs, Aikmans. I understand some of that
But
is
that's changed,
injury.
Mike. It's changed.
It has, but it's changed because of really one. Because even Breeze showed signs at age 38.
Well,
It's changed because of the greatest quarterback ever making us think that this is the normal thing. It hasn't historically in that sport.
But it's also Aaron Rodgers. It's Brett Favre having a great season for the Vikings and in his late 30s, I believe. It's Aaron Rodgers having back-to-back MVP seasons at 36 and 37.
Well, he's 30.
It's changed a little bit.
Aaron Rodgers is 37 right now. Would you say you see a decline? I think everybody would.